Hello and welcome to HCCTV Student Lounge. This is a show done by HCC students for HCC students to give our opinions on news, entertainment, and what's happening in your school. My name is Caio Aragon. Hello, Carilla. What's up?
Hey, Caio. Good to see you. We're also joined today by Benjamin, Francisco, Josh, Andres, and Eric. We will also be joined by our guest, Israel Garza, who is here to talk about the Idea Studio at the West Houston Institute and some innovative technologies. But first, let's move into our top 3 news of the week. So first, film and TV productions are allowed to get back to work. Under strict protocols, Hollywood started filming for several famous films. They resumed this past June 12 after being suspended by the coronavirus pandemic. Also, the first SpaceX astronaut launch marks a crucial leap for NASA's ambitions. Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital class reusable rocket. Did you know that, Caio?
Yeah, I actually knew because I saw the news. So fun thing, they actually gonna be exposing one of the propellers. They have 2. So one of them is actually gonna be here in Houston, in NASA. So I'm really excited to go check that out.
I love it. I'm gonna go since I'm here in Houston. Reusability allows SpaceX to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket. The mission is intended to provide high-speed, low-latency broadband connectivity across the globe. Finally, summer classes have begun. Are you taking classes, Caio?
No, I want to enjoy my summer a little bit, but I'll be back on the fall for sure.
Cool. Well, I am, and I have already enrolled. Now, HCC sees summer enrollment increase. There is almost a 9% enrollment increase for the summer semester. However, the increase may be the direct result of an economic downturn that is motivating students to return to school to learn new skills. Since the college system has seen a decline in the new college applicants. So to start our topic of today, once you get out of high school, you start thinking on going to college, getting a new job, and most importantly, about living at home or getting your own place. Today, we will have some insights helping you how to make that decision. Caio, do you live alone or with your parents?
I actually live with my girlfriend, but before we live together, I actually used to live by myself. And there's some good things and bad things. You know, the good thing of being by yourself, I think you learn, you grow, and you learn how to cook, you learn how to take care of your house, how to do laundry, and those things usually your parents do for you. And honestly, we never appreciate until we lose it. And then we're like, okay, oh my God, I really miss being home with my parents, especially the bills too. Once you see all those bills that you got to pay by yourself, like, oh my God, what I'm going to do now? But I don't know. I think it's worth it, the experience to live by yourself. You have way more freedom. But I would like to know what Benjamin has to say. Benjamin, do you live by yourself? What's your point of view in that?
I currently live by myself, and I'm way with you, Kyle. You get the freedom and everything, but you do miss home. You miss those home-cooked meals. You miss, your parents, telling you sometimes what to do, because you got to limit yourself at a certain point, and then living at home, like you said, you got to make money for rent. You got to make money to pay the electricity bill. You got to make money for basically everything. So you have to limit yourself here and there. I'm going back home next month, so I'm right in the between of like, okay, I already saw what it's like to live by myself, and I'm going back home to enjoy it all back again. But I want to see what Francisco has to say about that. Francisco, do you live at home?
Yeah, so I live at home now. I have for the past 2 years, but for the 4 before that, I lived in a dorm and in an apartment. And yeah, as much as I liked living on my own and being independent, I feel like personally, my situation, I don't have a lot of like rules and restrictions placed. So it's kind of like if I was living by myself, except I don't have to worry about paying for stuff. So I think I'm set up pretty well.
Well, I have enjoyed living by myself. I was kind of forced living by myself like 2 years ago since I wanted to move closer to school. And of course, I miss my mom cooking the whole time, like I have my lunch and ready the day before, and I could just take it to school. But I like staying by myself. My mom comes sometimes, and she does the cooking for me when she comes visit from Colombia, from a different country. So I like having her for that. So I think we all agree that the cooking part is what takes most of our time since we're all college students. Well, how about living alone in space, Kyle?
I'm ready to
I think
go.
we're having some.
I'm ready to go. For real though. I mean, the current situation that we have right now, like there's so much stuff going on wrong here that I do feel like I just want to go to space and come back like a year after and maybe come back and see things better. But I don't know. I think that living by yourself in space can be a little bit crazy, you know, like lack of people and like communication. I don't know. I think I would probably go nuts if I stay too long. But I would love to visit, you know, like a week or 2 weeks in space. I think would be good for me. Yeah, I want to know what else you have to say. What do you think?
That sounds crazy to me. I like watching TV and seeing the people walking off the moon and everything, but I wouldn't go. It's so crazy. But actually, SpaceX announced fashion innovator and globally recognized art curator, and he will be the company's first private passenger to fly around the moon in 2023. So that sounds kind of cool. Well, let's move into Kayo's special guest. Who do you have for today, Kayo?
Today I have Israel Garza. He is the Idea Studio Manager, and today we have some really interesting topics to talk about. So first I'd like to introduce, hey, how are you today, Israel?
Well, I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. So I heard that, you know, we spoke a little bit and you did mention that you have the Mars habitat mock-up. So I'd love to hear more about that. Can you tell me what's the project and how did you help?
Yeah, sure. There is a partnership between HCC and University of Houston. As it turns out, University of Houston has a master's program in space architecture. And so the master's students that are getting their master's degree, they have to make a thesis and all that. And so the first group of students that came out of that program, that when we were open, they came up with an idea of creating a life-size mock-up of a Mars habitat. And so these are master's students, so their bachelor's is in engineering, and so they have the technical understanding of what it takes to build, you know, to do architecture. So the master's is in architecture, space architecture, and so they've designed all the components in terms of the internal systems, airflow, HVAC, and how to live and how to bathe and eat and all that kind of stuff. All those systems and building it into an enclosed system. And so they built a life-sized mock-up in our building on the Alif Hayes campus in the West Houston Institute building. I think it's on the 3rd floor. And so right now it's built, and so you can walk through it and kind of see what it would basically look like. And for every subsequent semester, another master's student will come along and then design a project that will go into it. And so last fall, there was a student who was getting their master's degree in space architecture. They designed an aquapod system, which is kind of a fold-out sort of bathtub, if you will, a space bathtub, if you will, something that they can get in and kind of soak and, you know, clean themselves off and kind of just relax. Living in space is not just about how efficiently you can survive. There's certain comforts that you have to experience and in order to have your psychological health maintained. And so that was the most recent program. I wish I had the ability to share some of the images, but it's a neat program. So if anybody ever has an opportunity to go to that building, go to the 3rd floor, once we're open again, go to the 3rd floor and kind of walk through it. And it's not functional, but it does, in terms of like, it doesn't actually have the pipes and water, all that kind of stuff, but it is something you can walk through and it kind of get a sense of what the space would be like around you once you're up in space. And there's posters and such all around that area, kind of to give you an idea of what the whole system would look like. It's a multi-tiered kind of hexagonal sort of building that has different like engineering levels, living levels, hydroponics, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's a pretty neat layout.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I definitely want to go check it out. And I think I would love to suck in a bathtub in Mars, just with space. Oh my God, that would be cool. I would definitely do that. So let's talk a little bit about I did spoke with you and you mentioned that you guys have a VR at the lab. So I would like to know what type of simulations can be done and what are the benefits for students?
Well, if I can, I'd like to back up a little bit and talk about the space and say that the VR that we have available to our members is one of the many components that we have available in terms of equipment. Membership, we have a membership model for our space. And so anyone that is a student, faculty, or staff member can be a member of our space, and there's no charge. So if anybody is listening or watching, if you are a student, faculty, or staff, you can sign up to be a member. And so all that does is that just gets you into our system, that kind of orients you to our safety protocols and whatnot. And then once you are a member, then you can start taking tool trainings, and that can go from 3D printers through our laser cutters, vinyl cutting, wood shop, metal shop, and that also includes virtual reality. And so we have several different kinds of rigs set up for VR. And so the main component, so me as the manager, my job is to maintain the space and the equipment. But I do have something, my boss is the director, and he handles the programming and all, and how it's going to be used. But I still like to ideate on how it can be used. And the main way I like to use virtual reality right now is to virtually model things. You can actually VR sculpt things. You can output that file and then 3D print it or mill it on a CNC machine. There's a lot of different ways that you can make a physical object from a virtual manufacturing of that object. And so not only can you make objects in VR, you can also make environments in that. And so there is a VR program that's going to be going up into the WHI building pretty soon. Their main role is going to be handling the software side of virtual reality. How do you create environments? And so I'm hoping that we get to work with them in the interface and the developing on how they're going to teach their students the kinds of skills that they're going to need in order to create those environments. And space and other environments that they're not easy to get to are great subjects or kinds of objects to try to create, so that you can, at least people training to be in those spaces can get some sort of orientation before they go into the real thing.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing too is just, not just learn how to do it, but also you got to practice a lot in order to be successful. You don't want to, do a simulation, for example, with something related to space. When you're out there, you cannot mess up, because that's definitely your life. So you got to make sure you're doing the right thing, practice as much as you want. And I've already used a VR, and I just love the way it feels so real. Like you're there, like wherever you look at, it's such a great feeling. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to the day when there's going to be, right now we have the goggles and we have the controllers that we can interact with virtual objects, but more and more technology is being put into developing haptic feedback, which is to say that when you touch a table, you actually get the pushback of the table. So there's a more real sense of what you're doing. And so it's way better, it's way safer, there's less of a cost if you fail in a virtual environment. So if you fail it, so that you won't have to fail in a real environment, especially when failure, there's such a small margin for survivability. Oh my God, survivability. So yeah, that's the whole idea, is to hone that process to make it as real and actual as possible, so that all that skill and experience and capability is built up in the virtual space, so that you minimize the amount of failures that you have in real space.
Okay. So let's talk about the 3D printing, for example. I know that already we use a lot at the West Houston Institute. How do you think that can be really helpful in space? I know that you cannot take a lot of material, a lot of like parts and things like that. So once you have a machine that can print those, you can definitely, save yourself with that. So what type of things do you think 3D printing can help, especially in space?
So 3D printing is a wonderful way of manufacturing an ad hoc sort of need, right? So if you have a door hinge that breaks, you don't want to take up an extra door hinge just because you have, because that's going to be extra weight that's going to have to be hauled up into space. And one of the most fundamental considerations about taking things into space is the weight of an object and how valuable that object is going to be in space. And so it's not very useful to take something up that may never break, right? So that it was wasted time and wasted fuel and all these things. So the more efficient approach to that is that let's just take up some material that could be printed towards anything that may break down. And so that raw material that you send up will get eventually used, but you just don't know how it's going to be used. So if you have a bracket or if you have some other component that you need to fabricate, and it may not even be something that's a replacement part. Maybe there's some design that you created while you're in space that you've digitally fabricated on a computer in space that there's no way you would have known you would have needed that sort of part, that you have the ability now to make it. And the other thing about 3D printing in space is that scientists and researchers are trying to work out how to use materials of where there's going to be plenty of at their destination. And so like let's say it's the moon or Mars where there's going to be a lot of soil and dust and whatnot. If they can find the right glue or material that can stick stuff together, and if that can be made into a paste and extruded out of the 3D printer, then they have almost an unlimited source of material so that they never had to carry it across space in the first place. So that's going to save them a lot of fuel. And so 3D printing, I think, is going to be a very important component to space travel in the future, so that things can be built not with parts that were made from home or designs that were made back on Earth, but innovations that were created at the time that they're there. Even the scientists back at home won't necessarily have an understanding of what it's going to take to do something while they're on the Mars surface. Only the people that are there are going to know. And so they're going to have a better understanding of how to design these, the things that they're going to need. And so, yeah, I think 3D printing is going to be very, very crucial to space exploration.
Awesome. Seriously, thank you so much. I learned so much from talking to you right now, and I really appreciate your time here. So now we're going to move on to the next topic. We're going to be talking about the shows that we enjoy watching, and I would like to start with Space Force. It's a new show on Netflix with Steve Carell. He's the same guy from The Office. He plays Michael on The Office. So you already know he's funny the way he is, and I can still see a little bit of Michael in this show, the way he acts, the way he talks. So it's pretty funny, and does talk about Space Force, which is like a new branch that the USA was trying to put up, and so they kind of mock up a little bit, to make fun of it. So I think it's really, really funny, and I think you should definitely watch. So now I'd like to hear what Josh has to recommend. Josh, do you have any movies or series that you would like to recommend?
Staying on the subject of space, my favorite space-themed piece of media is the 1996 hit documentary Space Jam. It's a movie starring the Looney Tunes and the greatest actor of all time, Michael Jordan, as they try and save the NBA players who have been stolen their powers from the Nerdlucks, aka the Monstars, because they were enslaved by Mr. Swackhammer and Moron Mountain, excuse me. It's a very great movie. Highly recommend it. All time. Don't see Space Jam 2 when it comes out.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's move on now to Eric. Eric, do you have anything that you'd like to recommend?
Yes, Kyle. Hearing all about the different types of technology reminded me of the movie Armageddon. It was directed by Michael Bay, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and has to do with them creating a drill to drill through an asteroid in space, which involved a lot of engineering. And I think that all these topics are very similar to, like, maybe we can go in that direction in the near future. I think that's a good movie that people can kind of watch and get an idea of maybe that's where we're going.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I'll definitely check it out.
I want to recommend two really, really good movies that I really like about the space. That is Apollo 13 and Gravity. So Apollo 13 is from the director, Ron Howard, that I really like that director. And it's starring by Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon. I really recommend that movie. It's about the story about the Apollo 13 mission. Very good story, the real story. And another movie that I really want to recommend is Gravity, that is from the Mexican director Alfonso Cuarón. is another very good movie about the space, starring by Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. Very good movie too to watch.
Well, we start to run out of time. So before you leave, we have one more thing. We're going to be sharing the meme of the week or the funny video. So stay into the end so you can check that out. Now I'm going to move to Carolina. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you next time.
Don't forget to send us your opinions. Send us also topics that you would like to discuss. Even if you want to be a guest on our show, just let us know, and we'll see you on the next time on the Student Lounge. Bye.
What are you doing? Oh, no. Hey.